So Joan Green is going to be speaking with us about leveraging the benefits of technology to support learning. Ms. Green is a speech-language pathologist, assistive technology specialist, and an online tech coach, and also the mother of 4 young adults. For 35 years, she has helped children and adults with both developmental and acquired disabilities. Joan has written and published 4 books about using assistive technology in special education and regularly speaks on a wide variety of communication, cognition, literacy, and learning topics. Her most recent book, I guess you were working on your 3rd edition, is Assistive Technology. There it is. Assistive Technology in Special Education Resources for Education, Intervention, and Rehabilitation. And her website is innovativespeech.com. And I'm delighted to have connected with Joan. I've heard her speak before and have learned so much from her. And it's also delightful to meet with her because she and I went through the same undergrad and graduate program and at Northwestern. And we were fortunate to get to work with some of the top folks in the field many years ago. And I can guarantee that she has an excellent foundation in our population. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Joan. We have the captions up right now on Zoom. You can override that. And I don't remember how.
So right now I'm sharing my screen and I have captions on so that they'll be saved in the recording. And now for those of you, it's really, I just did a whole presentation all about captions. So you can choose to see the Zoom captions or not. I suggest you turn them off because they're basically the same quality as the ones that I'm showing you automatically at the bottom of the screen. So you can just find where it says CC, and if you don't see captions, then just, you can turn off the Zoom captions. It gets confusing now because before there were no options for captions, but I think it's really important for people to be able to view captioning. So
what I don't know, and I apologize, is I don't know how to walk people through how to turn off the captions.
I think let's see here. If you just click on more, if you don't see, let's see if I can do it. I saw it before, but I'm not seeing it now.
I've seen it too.
I don't know what. Oh, they call them subtitles. So you can stop showing subtitles. So mine says show subtitle because I don't have them on. So if you're getting double captioning, you can just go to the Zoom screen where your microphone is and your camera is and chat and all that, and stop showing the subtitles, and then you'll just see the captions once.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that quick tutorial.
No problem.
I'll turn things over to you, and I'll be monitoring the chat as well.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for having me. I enjoyed our chat on the phone too. I didn't realize you went there both for undergrad and grad.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll have to chat later.
Yes, we will. Okay. So today we're going to talk, the title of the talk is Let's Leverage the Benefits of Technology to Support Learning. And I realize that, you're all here as a parent, and I've been there. My kids my youngest one is 22, my oldest one is 28. And I remember feeling so overwhelmed, especially as they were in school and many people work outside the home and you're expected to know a lot of things. And so the whole point of this presentation is to make you aware of some of these technologies that you might not know exist. So as they said at the beginning, this is being recorded, and you'll notice that I have enabled closed captioning. I'm using the closed captioning feature of PowerPoint. And so this is something that I talk a lot about, and I'll have more information later in the presentation. There are a lot of students that have hearing impairments and auditory processing challenges. And so as long as they're meeting on Google Keep or Zoom, they should be able to see captioning. That's something that can really help many students. Also, some students who have trouble with attention, might have ADHD. A lot of students can benefit, not everyone. And so it's actually, some people find it very distracting. And so if you use closed captioning, which Zoom uses and Google Meet uses, the person can decide whether or not they want to use the captioning. And so it's not perfect because it's automatic. And so there may be some errors. I know that when I attend presentations, I always want a copy of the slides. So I make those easy to access and I put them in your chat. The chat is at the very bottom of the Zoom panel where your microphone is and your video is. If you don't see something that says chat, there might be 3 dots, which means more. It depends which device you're watching this on, but you can see in the chat, I put a link and that goes to a Dropbox where I've shared 2 versions of the slide that you can download them immediately, or you can take out your phone. We usually tell everyone to put their phones away, but you can text the word SEPTA to that number, 1-833-735-7333, and it just asks for your email and name, and then it sends you the link if you are unable to click on the link, or for those people that are watching this after the recording. So again, my name is Joan Green. I'm really happy to be here. I love speaking to new groups of people and sharing what I've learned. This is my website, and you'll notice on the bottom right, it says, Let's Chat. And it's my pleasure to chat with people every single day. You just click on that and it offers days and times that you can just put in your name and number and tell me what you want to talk about and I'll call you. I do a number of these every day and I schedule them up to 3 days in advance. What happens is it's connected to my calendar and I give priority to my clients and presentations and things like that, and the empty spots go to that. So today we're going to explore this new generation of assistive tech. And I call it a new generation because it really has changed. Many of the features that I'm going to be highlighting used to be so expensive when I first started with this. I mean, just buying a touch screen 20 years ago was enormously expensive. And using word prediction and speech to text and so many of these features used to cost a lot, and now they're included on our devices, even the Chromebooks that most of the students are using. But it's hard because many parents and students don't realize that they're there, or they don't think to use them. And so the first step is just learning what's possible. And I know that there probably are a lot of parents out there that might have tried Google Drive in the past or Google Docs when it first came out, and it wasn't very good. But it has really improved and it keeps getting better and better. And so in order to be able to help your students or to help them advocate for themselves or to advocate for them, you need to know what's possible. And often there's no one exact way to go about doing things. And often you need to practice a little bit and adapt it and change things in order for the student to accept it. So I hear a lot of times, dictation doesn't work for my student. He tried it once. I could tell you so many stories. You need to be patient and you need to try it different ways and give choices. So let me move forward here. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is really develop a new tech mindset. And I talk to students of all ages about this and parents about this. So a lot of times technology gets a bad rap. It can lead to so many problems and it's bad for your eyes if you're focused on a screen too much, and it causes kids to have a shorter attention span, and you can get into so much trouble with technology and doing inappropriate things online. I mean, we need to be careful and we need to help protect our kids and teach them how to use it appropriately. But it also can be amazing for students who have attention challenges, reading challenges, writing challenges, executive functioning challenges. This levels the playing field for them. And we need to really let them figure out what's going to work for them moving forward. I've seen so many kids just take ownership of the certain features and cool things that tech can do, and that becomes their thing. And they show a lot of the other kids how they use technology to help themselves, and it doesn't make them feel disabled. It makes them feel empowered and cool. So, really developing a new mindset around technology. And it's because of universal design for learning. And I've gone to conferences on this. I could speak a long time about this, but it was developed by cast.org. And you can, if you're interested in this, you can really, read up on it. But essentially, it's the concept that all of our technologies, our phones and tablets and computers these days, are built proactively with a lot of features in mind that can support student learning, rather than being reactive in putting supports in place that weren't thought of at first. So how I like to present these days is to give you a little scenario so that this has meaning to you. And I really want to encourage you to take part in the chat. So if this resonates with you, or if you've tried certain tools that I mentioned, or if you've tried something that hasn't worked, or if you have other ideas, let's really be interactive in the chat so that you can learn from each other as well as me. I have a couple of screens here, so I'm sort of watching the chat and watching, monitoring a bunch of things at once. But all right, let's say, what can Jose and Monique benefit from? Jose is in 5th grade and reading is slow and difficult. He's falling increasingly behind with reading assignments. Monique is a junior in high school. Her mind wanders when reading and she has trouble remembering what she's read, especially if it isn't interesting to her. Does this ring a bell with anybody? Anybody in this group have a child with challenges with reading? Yeah, okay. So what I think of are different features. So, and then what we're supposed to do is think of features and the needs of the child and match those up and then pick the tool. So the features that I think of when I want to help people, I work with adults and kids that have trouble with reading, is finding the best way to have the text read aloud to them, and also to change the view. And those two things can really make a huge difference. And there's a lot of debate of when is it appropriate to let kids use these features? Is it cheating? They should be becoming better readers. And what I usually say is it depends on the task. When kids are younger, they're learning to read. But as they get older, they're reading to learn. And if they aren't strong readers, pretty early on, we really need to give them any tool that we can that's going to help them access the information that everybody's learning, or they're just going to get further and further behind. So you can continue to improve your reading skills while you're using assistive technologies that, and it's just assistive technology because without it, you can't do a certain task. So most of these technologies are mainstream now, but we refer to them as assistive technology because you need them to succeed. So, clicked on the wrong thing here. Sorry about that. Okay. And I do have, if you go to my website at innovativespeech.com, I have a free download that goes over my 5 ways to make reading easier. And I'm going to share different resources with you as we go along. And so every single operating system now that you use, whether it be Google, Microsoft, or Apple, they all have the ability to read out loud and to change the view. And so once you determine that that's something you want to do, you just search for it, and there's so many video tutorials that can teach you what to do. So here are some links featuring the accessibility of these different operating systems. And then when you're trying to figure out how to do this, it's almost like learning a different language. You need to know what to look for on the different devices. And depending on what device you're on, it'll be a little bit different. So you really just have to learn this new language of tech. So whenever I see a symbol like this, like with the 4 horizontal lines, and the last one's a little bit shorter, to me, I know that's the reading view. So if you're in Edge, or you're in Safari, or you're in Firefox, up on where you type in the URL in your browser, a lot of websites have reading views that will just automatically make it a lot easier. Or if you're in the Chrome browser, you can have an extension. So you would have to go to the Chrome web store and download an extension, which is like a little mini program. And I can show you any of this after we get through some, if you want to see exactly what it looks like. But if you select, it shows up on the top of your screen. And if you're reading something, you can click on this Mercury Reader and you can enlarge the text and you can get rid of the ads and declutter the whole page, and it's all free. And so that's a really good tool, and that can help with reading. Or you can have things read aloud. So there's this Read Aloud Chrome extension, which, like it says, will read aloud. And there's a lot of research that says that it's really best to highlight the word in one color and the sentence in another color. As your eyes watch the words, you also read with your ears, and you do it all at the same time. And there's research that says that that actually helps the reading process. I was here at the beginning with the meeting, and I am throughout this presentation going to share with you some links of presentations that were really great by FCPS assistive tech folks. So here's a link where they talked all about Natural Reader, which is a tool that they're using a lot to help kids access material read out loud. Or if you're on an iOS device, an iPad or an iPhone, going into the accessibility, the settings, and then accessibility, and then clicking on spoken content, and then speak selection and speak screen. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of this, but just know that on every single device that you're using, you can have text read aloud. My personal favorite way to have text read aloud is the Read and Write extension by Texthelp. And so that's something that I believe, I'm not positive. I think I'm in Montgomery County. My kids went to Montgomery County, and they used this for kids with documented dysgraphia and dyslexia. They had a certain number of subscriptions that they could give the kids. As a parent, you can always buy this. You can download the Google extension, the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension, onto your own computer, and then the bar looks like this. This is the premium version. And if it will read aloud to you, it will get rid of all the ads if you want it to. It can show you one line at a time. It is a wonderful tool. And if you don't want to buy the subscription, the piece that reads aloud to you for free stays there forever. Some of the premium content goes away, but you can access the Read and Write for Google toolbar that reads aloud. Any website, any Google Doc, that will be for free. So Heather asked, does Read and Write also do talk to text? Yep, it does, where this little headset is. It does talk to text, as does Google Docs. The voice typing is really great. Okay. And then I know that it's not a Microsoft school system, but it's important to know that Immersive Reader is really great, and that's included now in the Edge browser, and it can be used with Office 365, and that also reads aloud. And again, I can do demos of any of this once we're through the content, but the webinars that I linked to did go through all of that. And for students with reading challenges, it's also really helpful for them to have digital books. So if they have a documented print disability, they might be able to get access to Bookshare. And I have Learning Ally on the next slide. And Bookshare is something I think is very underutilized, because if you can only get access to it if you have a documented print disability, and then you can get access to all of your books and textbooks. And for younger readers, or for older readers that need appropriate content at an easier level, the Tar Heel Reader site is really great. And the Voice Dream Reader app is actually my favorite way to read the Bookshare books. So getting into all of these digital books can get a little bit complicated. I actually have a free webinar next month on the whole topic of digital books. So, and then so digital books use text to speech. So they're a little robotic sounding, but the voices have dramatically improved. And audiobooks are those with human narration, so real people talking. And Learning Ally is that. It's an audiobook with a real person. And then Audible is what you can use if you have to pay for it. That's part of Amazon. And then
Joan?
the Libby app I've been using a lot by Overdrive, that's free, and that's how you can get audiobooks or regular digital books from the library.
Joan, we have a question, I'm not sure if you saw it, about which readers are compatible with refreshable Braille displays.
That I have never worked with refreshable Braille displays, so I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that, that's out of my area. And so this is a slide about a free webinar. I give free webinars every month, and the next one is all about digital books. And here are some links from the assistive technology folks of FCPS. I really think that there's a tremendous amount of wonderful online content. I was really impressed when I watched like 5 different webinars, and there's a lot of great information there. AIM is the Accessible Instructional Materials offering. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but you all have a lot. If there's a documented print disability, there are a lot of resources to use. The first step is just knowing what's there. So this is the site for those materials. And so, maybe it's underutilized, but I often work with parents from all over that just don't know about the resources that their schools provide. And this is something that's really excellent and would be good to know about. If any of you have experience with those, with AIM, be sure to share it, because that's not something that every state has. Any other questions about reading before I move on? Oh, thanks, Michelle. That's a great site too.
Yep, I don't see any additional questions at this point.
Okay. All right, so let's talk now about Jimmy. Let's see what Jimmy can benefit from. Jimmy has dysgraphia, a writing disability, and has difficulty getting started with written assignments, and he makes many errors when writing. So we're talking about writing here. Do any of you guys have, feel free while I'm talking about this to talk about tech features to help with writing. And so I think of speech recognition, so you talk and have the computer type, and also word prediction are the 2 features that I would think of the most to help kids who have trouble with that. And so all computers and mobile devices now can turn your speech into text. And a lot of people don't realize that. Most people realize, at least the kids, the young ones, realize that you can, when they're texting on the phone, it's so small, they think to touch the microphone that's just on the on-screen keyboard and dictate. So that works well, but they don't think to use it when writing an essay. And Microsoft Word and Google Docs are the 2 most popular ways to write essays, and they both include free dictation software that has really improved. It's not a magic solution, but it's really improved, and I think it requires some explicit teaching and a lot of practice. Here I have in this image the built-in, not using Word or Docs, but just using the feature of your computer. So if you're on a Windows computer, you can touch the Windows logo and hold it down, keep holding it while you touch the H, so simultaneously. And then the first time you do it, you have to give it permission, but the microphone will come up and you can just dictate. And what was really cool, I was doing this with my dad actually this weekend, because he was trying to use dictation, and now it put in the punctuation, which I could not believe. It put in question marks and periods. I mean, because he wasn't using those. That's a skill to learn. And it was just putting them in. So that was the first time I've experienced that. I think that must have been a recent update. If you're on a Mac, you can just, once it's enabled, press the function key twice, and then you see the microphone pop up. And then you can see here what to do with a Chromebook. Oh, Heather says that if you say the punctuation, it works, right? So you can say period, question mark. Here's an example of voice typing in Google Docs. So what you do, if you have a Google Doc and I haven't added anything, you just go over here to where it says tools and click on it. And then you go down to where you see voice typing and you touch it, and then the microphone pops up and you can just dictate. So it's just built right in there. And sometimes you can get inventive with this. I've had some students that are using old desktop computers and they don't have a microphone. And I'll say, well, let's just open up a Google Doc on your computer and the same Google Doc on your phone, and then just dictate from the phone. And then you see the words showing up on the computer. So you can get creative with this. And then there are some students that don't speak English in a way that is articulate and that the computer understands. And so that's not going to be a great solution for everybody. And so there are a lot of students that may benefit from just talking and having an audio recording and then listening back to the audio recording to hear what they said, and then they can type it out. Everybody has sort of a different way to go about writing. So these are some apps that are free on the phone. And then word prediction is also another feature that's really helpful for a lot of students. So as you're typing, it will predict the next word. And this is shown a lot in those different webinars. And I put the steps here to enable word prediction on Chromebooks, because it's a little bit hard to find. It's under the keyboard device settings. And so you can enable word prediction. And so a lot of students will type and then they can't think of how to spell something, and they don't know what they're going to say next. Those of you who use Gmail, I mean, now it has a feature where it's predicting phrases based on what you've said before. And I find myself, looking at what they predict and then thinking, is that better than what I was going to say? Sometimes I like what Google came up with better than what I was going to write. So it's interesting. I've also had a few students, younger students, that become so adept at dictating that they don't think that they should have to bother learning to write or spell, because they can just say it and it's written for them. And so then we have to convince them that it's important to still learn how to spell, to at least try to learn to spell and to try to learn to write. It's an important skill for independence. And this is just another tool, but you don't always have something around that you can dictate into. So it can go both ways. I mean, sometimes this technology works so well that students just don't want to do things the old-fashioned way. I don't know if anyone has experienced that. This is an example of one of my favorite tools for students that have a lot of difficulty with writing. It's called Co-Writer Universal. And again, you can get it as a Chrome extension. It used to be, a lot of these used to be very expensive software items that you'd buy and load into a computer. Now they're all worked with online. So you can see that I wrote, I love using word prediction too. And then you can just see the words that are predicted. Whoop, sorry. Just got out of the presentation.
Joan, a question has come in the chat about the various accessibility functions of the Apple Note app. Do you see that one there?
Oh, that's a whole different topic. Yeah. I do know that a lot. Donna is, yeah, I don't use Braille. The Apple Note app, I just know, I don't know it inside and out. I know the scanning function. So if you open up Apple Notes, let's see. If you open up Apple Notes, you see you have a lot, you can type, you can dictate. And then up here, if you click on the camera, it does some really cool things. You can scan a document for free. So you just have the scanning feature built right into your phone. I just actually finished a whole course on just the iPhone. And we talked about this, but I don't know. I don't know what other accessibility functions. I think I'll need to get through the presentation and then maybe I can get more into what you want me to talk about.
Sure, thank you.
Mathshare is a free tool by the same developers as Bookshare. And this is a tool for helping students that have trouble with writing deal with all the equations in math. So again, I don't work with math so much, but this would be worth a look if you have a student that's having a real tough time writing out math. And then more tools to help with writing. I've also, you know, after students write, it's really helpful to have them listen back to the text read aloud to make sure that it's saying what they want it to say. Also, you can go into the outlining tools with Word or Docs and use the outlining tool to help you, you know, with the main heading and then subheadings. And also there's Grammarly. I'm just trying to give lots of resources out there grouped by features so that those of you who are curious what's available will have something to search for, at least when you're trying to learn more. Then there are also mind maps and visual webs. A lot of us used to use Kidspiration and Inspiration, and I think they went out of business, and then somebody bought them, and I think now they're back in business, but only, I forgot, maybe only on a PC. But I've really come to like MindMeister. That would be something to look at if you're looking for something with templates and visual organization that can handle videos and images and dictation, and it, you know, it's just another way to approach writing that's not so linear. And then I'm really liking bookcreator.com, and you can get free versions of MindMeister and Book Creator. And that's just a really good tool for students that are really reluctant writers when you want to engage them and maybe have them put in videos or images of a vacation or some kind of story they create. And then they can speak and type and create books, digital books. Any other questions for algebra? So it does variables, exponents, etc. You know, you'd have to look more into that. I know Equatio, EQUATIO is another tool.
That was actually my comment. My child's math teacher is having them use Desmos, DESMOS, which is amazing for doing algebra on a keyboard.
Great. Yeah, everybody share what you know, because we're all coming at this from different angles. And so I try to get everybody learning from each other. All right, let's talk about Emily. Emily is easily frustrated and distracted. She's disorganized, misses deadlines, and is easily overwhelmed with projects and convinced the expectations are unrealistic. That ring any bells? I mean, I remember when some of my kids would come home and they were just so stressed and overwhelmed, and we would just sit them down and try to, you know, figure out what they had to do that day and how long it would take, and we would write it out. And I'm going to show you some tools that may help de-stress them and also just to help with productivity. All right, so let's talk about some tech treasures or features. Features to support focus and productivity. The first thing that I always start with, and if I forget, then I'm reminded as soon as there's a distraction, is to make sure that the students are, turning on Do Not Disturb on their devices. So if they have a phone and you can go pull down and go to the control panel and find that moon, you know, click it so that you are not going to be disturbed. Or if you're on, this is a picture of my Mac, you can go on the top there where there are the two lines and just click on Do Not Disturb. And on every device, there's a way to turn off notifications and distractions. So we know that the kids have to have their tech to do their work. It's not like we can put it away. We just have to manage what they're paying attention to. And different families have different rules for this. And you can be, as I think I have a slide here about how, you know, you can really lock it down and just give them access to certain things. It all depends on the age and their self-control. So everybody's different how they manage this, but I think that it's important to know that you can turn on Do Not Disturb, and that's something that I use all the time. Also, I think it's really important to take breaks, and so all of our devices have built-in clocks. And so, you know, I might say to somebody, let's just really focus on this for 20 minutes and see how much you can get done. Or let's finish this and see how long it took, and just the more you use a timer and you really focus on things, the less time gets wasted. And then I try to get the kids to buy in to this is for them, so they can free up time to do what makes them happy and that they want to do. Just let's be efficient. Our brains can't multitask. You lose momentum and cognitive sharpness when you go back and forth all the time between tasks. So just, you know, set a timer, limit distractions, and focus. I'm also really into using the smart speakers, especially if during breaks, I want people to get up and move around or go outside or something. And so, you know, the notification that'll pop up after the timer's done might not be appropriate if they're away from their tech. So I tend to use these Echo devices a lot. You know, Alexa, remind me to leave in 20 minutes, or, you know, if they're missing classes or they have a deadline time for something. And here's the slide I mentioned that can really help. These are some apps that I have a number of families using just to help manage attention and what their kids are doing. Also, when I'm helping with organization and time management and planning, the Google Calendar is fantastic. And so my preference is to help, like, students of all ages really these days should have their own calendar and their own appointments. And at some point, we as parents want to back off. I mean, it's fine to have a family calendar and to put doctor's appointments for them, but maybe they can put in their social things just to get them used to using a calendar and getting reminders when things are due, and looking at the time they have free, and color coding things. I'm flying through this pretty fast, but I think any students that have attention challenges and executive functioning challenges really need to be keeping a calendar. And one of my favorite apps is Google Keep. Does anybody here use, oh, I see Michelle says that one of her sons uses the Forest. Yeah, that's a pretty popular one too. Do you want to tell people about Forest?
Sure. For what little I know about it, actually the funny story on it is that I tried so hard to get my son to use Forest when he was in middle school and high school, and then he refused to, and then discovered it in college and said to me, I'm using this great app called Forest. And I said, yeah, I've been trying to get you to use it for 5 years. And he was very proud. But essentially what happens is it's a do not disturb app, and you turn it on, and then over time, little trees grow on your screen, and your trees become like a little forest, obviously. But apparently it has a peer-to-peer setting where you and your friends can like compete to see who has the biggest forests and things like that. So
yeah, there are a lot of great things out there now. And if I mention anything like Google Keep, really I could give a 3-hour lecture on Google Keep. And so just getting the gist of it and then going and searching for it and watching video tutorials, that's how I teach myself everything. But Google Keep is one of those apps that when I'm working with families, this often is the one tool that makes the biggest difference. And so how this works is you can go to keep.google.com and bookmark it. So, you know, if you're in Chrome, you just select the star, and then I'll share. I just want to get through this, and I'm going to actually show you everything. And so, or on any of the devices, you can download the Google Keep app. And then what happens is it's a note. And so I like to show the check boxes and just have students, you know, I mean, as parents, if we do the grocery shopping, I know I have 4 kids and I shop for my parents and my mother-in-law and a whole bunch of people. And so I have my parents also have a Google Keep app, and they put all the groceries that they want, and you can move things around, and you can have subheadings, subtasks, and then you can check things off after they're done. And you along the bottom, you can see you can get reminders, even GPS-based reminders. You can have additional collaborators where you share it with people and pick different colors. So, and this could also be, you know, a homework, what kids have to do after school that day. Or it could be all the people they want to invite to a party. I try to start with fun things that they'll buy into, or maybe movies they want to watch, or fun things to do on an upcoming vacation where everybody in the family shares it and puts in their ideas. And it's searchable. So it can be extremely robust. I know some people that you know, use this every time they have an idea, they want to capture it and they put it in here, and you can have different labels and group things by labels. But it's all free and it really helps. And when you open up a Google Doc or a Google Calendar, the Google Keep icon will show up on the side by default. And there are really creative ways that you can use it. And then Google Drive. So for students that have executive functioning challenges, you know, gone are the days of leaving homework at home, even once we go back to school, because if you're organized, you will always have access to your Google Drive and for content that you've put in it. So even though a lot of the students may be using Google Classroom, or if you're moving to Schoology, I always want to make sure that there's also Google Drive and that they're staying organized with folders that are color coded, and that you always access a document from a folder, and that there's some rhyme and reason. So maybe a folder for each year in school or a semester, and then for each class, so that everything has a home and you're organized. So sometimes students aren't doing that and they're just creating new docs all the time, and then they're searching for docs, but then they might not know what they named the doc, and it just gets to be a mess. So, and then Gmail, you know, if they have a Gmail address, is it the school's address? Is it their personal account? And then how to be efficient with email, how often you check it. These days, it's really very cool. You can click pause inbox if you're trying to really focus and you don't want to be tempted to be checking your email all the time, so that you reduce your distractions. Or if you like to only keep a small number of emails in your inbox, you can snooze certain emails that you don't even want to deal with till next week, and then they just come back till later. So you right click or 2-finger tap if you're working on a touchpad, and you can be really efficient with your Gmail. So these are just little tricks, and sometimes they can make all the difference. Right, Terry, remember the milk, yeah. So iStudies Pro is a calendar app for students. And so that can come in really handy, especially when you have block scheduling, things that are difficult to schedule in Google Calendar. 30/30, yeah. Sherry, do you want to talk at all about any of these apps or not so much? No? You recommend for class? Okay. All right, let's talk for a little bit about tech treasures that having to do with the screen. And so I think especially with all this distance learning, these can be very powerful. The first one is making sure that the students know how to take a screenshot. You know, I take screenshots all the time so that they can capture the screen. I mean, you could take a picture of it with your phone, but it's a lot easier to just, you know, on my Mac, for example, I'll press Command Shift and then 4, and I can capture part or all of my screen. And there are different ways to do it on all of these devices. So I wrote these down, but that can be a really good way to remember what took place in a class. And another huge game changer, I think, is to use 2 screens. So to have a separate monitor. I know that all 4 of my kids and my husband and myself. I can't work on just one laptop anymore. I have to have two screens because it just makes things so much easier to deal with. But if you are just working with one screen, then you can split the screen and have two windows open. And so if you don't know how to do that, you can just move the windows around. You can always say, how do I split the screen on my Chromebook? Or how do I split the screen on a Mac? And see the details. I do have a blog post on my website all about that with the steps for all the different kinds of devices. But just knowing it's possible. Okay, let's talk about Luke. What could Luke benefit from? Luke has trouble understanding what he hears. He has auditory processing challenges that appear to others as a hearing loss. So people that are having trouble hearing and understanding, I think about captions and syncing audio to notes. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. And again, I put a link here to the FCPS Parent Resource Center. Again, it is loaded with fantastic webinars. And this one came out just as I was doing my webinar on captioning. It was interesting because we talked about a lot of the same things, but I put this link in here for you all. And just know that Zoom now offers captioning. Even if you have a free account, you can get it. It's going to roll out to everybody by the fall. But you can contact Zoom if it presents you with an accessibility issue, and they will give you a free account. You have to, the way to access the captions in Zoom, if you're the host, it's the host that the person running the meeting has to go into their settings to enable it. But if you are on Google Keep, I keep calling it Google Meet, everybody has the ability to have closed captions. So I think that that's a really great accessibility tool. And then if you're the teachers, if they're presenting with PowerPoint or Google Slides, they can enable captions just like I have so that all the students can see it. If they're not using Google Meet, if they're in the classroom and just projecting onto the screen. So I think this use of captioning has really come into its own just in the last few years. And now I sort of expect people to use it all the time. And I'm amazed at how many accessibility conferences I go to when they're not using captioning. But I think that's changing pretty quickly because it's becoming easier and easier. And students that have trouble with auditory processing and hearing things, and even ADHD, you know, they can really benefit from finding a way that they can take notes and have what was said at that time synced to their notes. And there are a lot of choices for this. I think you have to really be in high school or college to be able to manage this. And there, you know, I think a lot of people who are interested in this topic, oh, I don't have my exact pen right here, but there are a lot of digital pens that you can use with certain paper, like the LiveScribe Smart Pens. I have an image there that you use with special paper, and often, depending on the pen you pick, you might be using your device with it. You can take notes, and the notes will end up creating sort of a video of the recording of what was said, and then you see what you wrote at that time. But you can't really capture screenshots with that. So I really like, you know, Notability is a good one too. I should have put on Microsoft OneNote is a fantastic tool. Glean is a new product. I think it's about a year or two old by Sonosend that I really like. This is a picture of it here. And especially if the teacher gives you handouts ahead of time, you can download the handouts and it gives you little chunks of where the audio was said, and you can click on that chunk and hear what was said at that time. And as it's going along, if the student can't process the information during the class, they can just click on the where it says here heading, where's my mouse? Heading, important, review, or task, and and then later they can go back in and listen to the notes and fill it in. So there are a lot of ways now that you can capture the audio and take notes, minimal notes, and later look at them and see what was said at that time. But you have to get permission to record. And so sometimes that's the biggest obstacle. Sometimes even if it's in the IEP, some people say it's a breach of confidentiality because you might capture what the students say. That's a whole topic. I'm not sure how your schools deal with that. Oh, Onenote is Braille compatible. Donna is our resident expert on Braille, so I appreciate that because I am not in the know when it comes to Braille. So here's Google Meet. This is the free video conferencing or meeting tool that Google has rolled out, and they keep adding many, many features to it. Now you can have breakout rooms. It's gotten so much better. And here I was just showing you how you can turn on captions in the settings. Any user can, and you don't have to rely on the host to enable it. So captions are wonderful. Donna, no need to apologize. I'm glad that you're chiming in. Really, anybody is welcome to chime in. I would love to hear from everybody about what you know, because we're all in this together. We're all parents, and it's hard to keep up with all this. My entire business revolves around keeping up with technology and helping speech pathologists and teachers and parents and students. And I try to stay to the scope of practice of what a speech pathologist often deals with. So Braille just isn't something that I know about. Okay, this is the coolest thing. This, you can get you download Scribble. It's a Chrome extension. And what it does is automatically, after you're done with a Google meeting, it will give you a transcript of the meeting. I mean, I just think that's the coolest thing, and it's free for a limited number of uses, but I forgot that I installed it, and then I was on a Google Meet session, and afterwards, I got what everybody said in a Google document that's just automatically created. So I thought that was amazing. So for some students, this may be a godsend. Okay. And then here I was just talking about Zoom when we were talking about captioning, and this is the link that you would click on if you have a free account and you want to get access to the live captioning feature. So, because right now it's already available in all paid Zoom accounts, and the free accounts will roll out to everybody in an update this fall, but if you want it now, you can get it. So I thought that was good. I've actually been writing to the folks at Zoom. I've used Zoom probably for 5 years. And when it first came out, I was so impressed with it. And I really wanted them to add captioning because there were so many other ways to access captioning, but not with Zoom. And so I kept writing to them, and I was so glad they were going to only offer it with the paid subscriptions. And I really felt it was an accessibility issue and that you shouldn't have to pay for it. So I was really happy about that. This is another wonderful way to access live captioning. If you go to your Chrome browser and you go to the settings, if you go to the advanced settings and then accessibility, you just toggle on live captioning as long as you have an updated version of Chrome. And then all of a sudden, if you're watching any video or listening to any audio, it will be instantly captioned in a black box for you, and you can move that around if it gets in the way. But I thought that was really great. So even if you're on a Zoom, if you're in a Zoom meeting where the host has not enabled captioning, if you're using the Chrome browser, if you've joined Zoom on Chrome, you can get it captioned. And somebody sends you a video to watch online, it'll be captioned for you. So I think that's amazing, and it's free. Okay, so here are some more links for the approved digital learning tools and FCPS, and also I had spoken with the folks at ATS, and they said that any parent that wants to learn more about assistive technology for their student should go to a school case manager, because I guess that person stays with the student the whole time, even if they've switched schools. And that person, and they will let you know which AT resource teacher would then be able to help you. But I think that it gets hard because a lot of these tools are available to everybody. And so I've shown you a lot of tools, but whose job is it to teach these tools to the kids in a way that will empower them, especially if they have documented disabilities? I don't know who's in charge of working directly with the student to teach them. Perhaps the teachers, but the teachers are so overburdened already. You know, should the parents be in charge of this? A lot of parents don't feel tech savvy and they don't know what's possible. You know, it's difficult. And a lot of these tools are free and available to everybody. But if they're required by the student in order to access the curriculum and stay engaged, they should be written into the IEP or the 504, and then they need to be taught to these kids. And so I know it's hard. It's hard. There's not enough of the AT staff. Their job is to empower the educators. So I'm sure there could, I mean, in every single school system that I speak to, there's a lot of concern about all of this. But they're not really the guardians anymore of these tools that cost money. Everybody has access to them and can use them. And so once I like students to, you know, I know that I saw a video on some tech club, you know, really it has to, you know, there are a few tech savvy kids in the class, and if they can really learn to use these tools and then they share what they've learned with the class and everybody gets excited about it, it's something that can become mainstream and not just for these kids with disabilities. And then it's tricky to figure out, you know, well, when should kids be allowed to use these different tools? I mean, you know, I can see a lot of debates both ways. Okay. And the last few slides are me just showing you about some tools, some things that I offer that can help parents learn. And then I can show you how some of these work and answer questions. We have a little bit more time yet. I do offer, I gave a 3-hour presentation with Dr. Brian Friedlander, who's another assistive technology person. And then what I did is I took all the videos and they were for college students, but really it's all good for high school students too, just older students. And so what we did is I broke them down into 5-minute videos that are really easy to follow, and took people through a course to introduce all the steps of all these tools. So I think it's a really good course. It's still open till the end of June. It's a self-paced online video course. And then I also, you know, here are images of my most recent webinars, and you can still access all of them for $25. So I offer them all for free. I'm trying to figure out a way to sustain this, doing so much for free that I do. And here's my book, Assistive Technology in Special Education, Resources to Support Literacy, Communication, and Learning Differences. This is on Amazon and a lot of online sites. And I have a free Facebook group, IST Tech Savvy Solutions, that everyone is welcome to join. I think we're up to about 600 people now. I'm trying to get it more interactive so everybody's helping each other. And again, I offer lots of free 15-minute phone calls for anybody who wants help figuring out their next steps. So, and I love presenting and teaching courses and doing webinars, so I'm open to free requests.
And we have a question here, Joan, which I think is one I've asked in the past in one of your workshops too. Recommendations for apps that students can use to turn a document into a fillable or a writable PDF, which is especially helpful for students with dysgraphia who might need to fill out applications, or, I mean, I can think of lots of ways.
I mean, I usually
labeling things.
I tend to use Kami, K-A-M-I. I don't know if that's if that's one that you all use or are familiar with.
I'm not familiar with it, and I can certainly say firsthand, I asked my own child's team about finding a way of taking a document and making it a fillable PDF, and my child's team responded with, that sounds like really neat technology. We don't know if it exists.
Well, it'll take a PDF. So it'll take a PDF and then it says, what do you want to open it with? Here, I'll open up Cami. So this is the tool.
And does Cami, is that one where you can also take a picture of a document or a handout or something like that and turn it into a fillable document? Donna's telling us Adobe can create a fillable PDF too.
Yeah, Adobe can do that. So, but you're talking about as a student or as a teacher?
As a student, if a teacher has a worksheet that the kids are doing, and can the student take a picture or a screenshot or something of the document and then be able to type in it?
They can scan it and upload it as a PDF.
Okay.
And then put it into Google Drive. So you can use the Notes app, the Notes app of this. There are a lot of ways to take a picture and upload it up into Google Drive, and then Cami will OCR it, optical character recognition, and so it would look something like this, and so what you can do is you can mark it up with text boxes. It's not a fillable PDF, but you can annotate on top of it and save your annotations. So I don't think technically it's a fillable PDF. Does that make sense? But you can write on it. I mean, if there are blanks, you can fill them in. You can write on the blank. There are also a lot of people that what they'll do is they'll upload a worksheet and they'll make that the background of a Google slide. So Google Slides, there are a lot of ways to do that. You can make it the worksheet, the image, the background of the Google slide, and then you can just write on the Google slide. You can edit the Google slide and put your answers. That's what a lot of teachers are doing. But I just wanted to show some of these tools. Like if you're wanting to do voice typing, you just go to Tools, Voice Typing. Now everything I say will be typed, period. If people haven't really seen that before, it's really quite good. And if people aren't familiar with the Chrome Web Store, you just type in Chrome Web Store. And I really, when I'm working with families, I try to make sure that people know how to click on the star and create bookmarks. So that, one can be for the Google Classroom. These are just mine. Here's one for the Chrome Web Store. And you can edit them to get rid of the text if you can recognize the image. And this helps students remember like where they're supposed to go for different content. And up along here are all the different Chrome extensions. So this is this is Co-Writer. This is Google Keep. This is Read and Write for Google Chrome. So if let's say I go to, because I'm sure there's some people that haven't seen some of these tools. So if I go to a site like National Geographic Kids, let's say, and then I find some text that I can't read and I want to read this, I can open up this Read and Write for Google extension. Come on. There it is. And then I like this hover. And wherever, now when that little purple line is at the bottom, that means it's in the hover mode. Wherever I put my cursor, it will just start to read.
Learn how to train a tree to grow in a funny shape in this episode of Nature Boom Time.
And that feature is free. And I just think it's so good. So even if you don't buy the premium version and you just want to use that free tool, it's fantastic for reading aloud anything that's online.
Joan, we have a couple more questions coming in.
Okay.
Can you do Google Doc voice typing on an iPad?
No, but you would use the microphone that's built into the iPad.
And another question, any recommendations for pen readers? Many students say pen readers are too slow.
So are you talking about these kind of pen readers? Like, so I think that must be these. So they're two pen readers. These are really only meant, like this C pen reader isn't to read a whole book aloud or something, but maybe just a word or a sentence. This is the C pen reader. If you're reading books and you're a pretty good reader, but there are some words that you just get stuck on, I think. I love this. This is called the Scan Marker Air. And just so you all know, I don't sell any of these and I don't get any kickbacks from anything. I'm just sharing what I like. This is.
Would you close your screen share so that we can see the pen better?
Yes.
Please. Thanks.
Thank you. So this is called Scan Marker Air. And what you do with this is you can scan a book and it will put whatever you scan into a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc and read it aloud as it does it. That's pretty cool. So if you're reading a book and want to take notes on the book and you have trouble writing, or you just want to, you just highlight something and it just sends it into the Google Doc or Microsoft Word. You just have to set it up that way and it says it aloud. So what a great way.
What is that one called again? I'm going to put it in the chat.
I think this has only been out about a year and it's not that expensive. Scan Marker Air.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's so many cool things out there nowadays. Let's see here. I can share that. It's called a digital highlighter. Yeah, instantly scan your notes. I just want to see how much it is. $116. I mean, I really think it's worth it. For an older student, I think that's really great. And it's pretty accurate. I've used it. Okay. Any other questions?
I don't see any more coming in, but if anyone has any questions, we are a small enough group. You are more than welcome to turn on your camera if you're comfortable, or
let me just
unmute.
demo this Google Keep, and then I'll let somebody talk. But I just want to I really want to make sure everybody sees what this is.
Absolutely.
So this is called Google Keep, and many students are not familiar with it. But once they see it, they really buy into it. It really works. So let's say after school, they want to make a list of what they're doing. So you take a note. I always go to this little drop down and show check boxes. And if a student's really stressed.
Oh, we need you to share your screen again.
Oh,
sorry. Thanks.
If they're really stressed. So I went here and I clicked on, I'll do it again, show check boxes. And you can give it a color, and they just think they have too much homework and they can't get it done. And I don't like busy work and I don't want to waste their time. I'll say, okay, what are your classes in? And they can split the screen or have a second monitor, and they might say, okay, English is going to take them 20 minutes and maybe math is going to take 60 minutes. I don't know. And then social studies is 15 minutes, and they can time themselves as they want. And then, they want to have a snack and they need to walk the dog. And then they can think, oh, they want to walk the dog first. That it can put them in a different order and move things around. And then if the parents want, you can share it with a parent or something so they don't bug them and they can just see that they're making some progress. And then you check things off as you do it. So it's just a really simple tool, but it can be really robust. If you could write a whole paper on this, you could use it to organize a report. And then if you open up your calendar, let's see. So if I go to calendar, I just want to show you how it shows up on the side. I just want to. I don't want to give away any client names. I thought I had set it up before. So, well, it shows up on the side of your calendar automatically, whether, you know, whatever, all of these work seamlessly together if you're in a Google Doc, or you can see things on the side. So they just, it's easy to move from one of these tools to another, and they just really work well together. Okay, any other questions?
Somebody commented, I'm not seeing the voice option on my iPad keyboard in Google.
So in Google Docs, so if I open up, so I'm going to open up my iPad and I'm going to go to the Docs app, Google Docs app. So you're not working online, you're working in the app. So hopefully, so if you open up Google Docs, and then let's say I'm going to start a new document. Okay, so this is a Google Doc. My microphone is just right here, down here. So now I can talk and everything will be typed. I mean, maybe can you use the microphone on your iPad for other things? So it's not called voice typing. You won't see the voice typing option with the Google Doc on an iPad. You just have to use the microphone that will show up in the on-screen keyboard when you're typing. Hopefully that helps.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Amy Courtney. I am a longtime school psychologist and educational advocate. I work privately. My granddaughter, who is 5 years old, has apraxia of speech. And I was hoping to learn something about a communication device or technology device that would offer her assistance. I see her become very frustrated because people cannot understand what she's trying to communicate.
So she's 5 years old?
5 years old.
And how is her literacy? Is she able to read or write?
She just turned 5, so technically she's preschool. She's not writing, but she recognizes some letters, numbers, counts, and so forth. But I kind of witnessed her give up because people can't understand what she's saying.
Is she seeing a speech pathologist?
Oh yes, she has speech therapy 4 times a week.
Yeah, I mean, I would think if she's 5 and she's getting really frustrated and she can't communicate, with her peers, I would have her using an AAC app or device for communication to supplement when she can't. I don't know how severe her apraxia is. Is she using anything? Any app?
No, but she can adapt to a computer very quickly. But currently, while her speech is developing, it's still, the most she can put together is 2 words.
I mean, at 5 years old, I would really think that there are, if you contact the assistive technology folks in the school system and they do a comprehensive evaluation, I would think that they would start her with some kind of augmentative communication device just to help. As it's not going to hurt her speech in any way, it will only help.
Right.
Her needs known.
Well, she's had the testing and we are going to have the meeting probably in the next upcoming weeks. And she was evaluated by the assistive technology person, but as you know, being in this field a very long time, it sometimes is very difficult for parents to access for their children what they are supposed to have. Unfortunately, I see that far too often.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I thought about presenting about different AAC, but I think that when we were brainstorming ideas for this, we talked about what would pertain to most of the people. You can call me, or you know, I am happy to give you resources and to go over the different apps, because I have really strong feelings about how to model AAC and a lot of the evidence-based apps. And in your area, there's some fantastic speech pathologists that are really great with AAC.
Well, and I would like that. I wrote down your information, and that's kind of what I thought, that I would give you a call personally, especially after I hear what they propose, and it would be beneficial. Apraxia is kind of out of my wheelhouse, but certainly I work with children who have, and I'd also be interested in talking with you about I'm interested in how you approach the technology, because I'm also interested where I work with adults who have never really embraced the fact that they have visual motor processing problems, and therefore, because of their visual motor processing problems, they can't spell, and they've never even learned how to use. You know, the IQ is a factor that we fail to take into consideration, because the higher the intellect, the more creative the individual is in getting around their weaknesses.
Right.
So,
right. I work a lot with, you know, twice exceptional students who are very highly gifted with some challenges, and they mask a lot of,
yes,
you know, they can really shine with a lot of this tech. I also work with adults with developmental disabilities. I work with seniors who've had strokes and head injuries. Fairfax Hospital was my first job. That's where I worked for a while after I got my master's. So there is so much potential. This tech, these assistive technology features can help so many people, just regular seniors. I work a lot with seniors.
But it's like you said, they have to be coached sometimes on either trying it a second time, or understanding the value of why that becomes essential for them in being able to do their work in an appropriate amount of time. Sometimes they don't consider that. They get so used to their work being very laborious for them that they don't kind of step outside to look at what the other possibilities are. And so I do appreciate that you touched on that sometimes that first trial might not go well, but when they get practiced with it, they become quite good at that. So.
Right. And I think a lot of time there's no exact right or wrong with this. And some kids and adults try something once for 2 minutes, don't like a voice, and then they hate all digital books. You know?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I've been talking to parents recently where their kids are in college or their kids are in high school, and they read everything aloud to the kid and type for them. I mean, they do everything for the child, and I think they're doing a disservice to the student. But the service wasn't really, the student never gave it a chance.
Right. I always use the analogy that sometimes you see kids riding a bike, and there'll be one that just can't master it, and they'll be running behind the other kids who are riding, and then they abandon those attempts, but then they get on the bike at 10 and they can ride it. And you can't pick out the one who couldn't ride, you know, at 6, but now can ride at 10. But it's because those developmental skills were then there.
Right.
And by revisiting the task, they were able to accomplish it. And so there's, you know, we just have so much to learn yet about the brain and all these aspects that are incorporated into learning. So.
And I saw, there's somebody else, somebody posted about, you know, apraxia. I mean, that's a subspecialty. There's Proloquo to Go, there's Lamp Words for Life, there's Touch Chat. There are a lot of these apps out there. I pretty much know all the apps, and I have all the apps. And so sometimes I think it's important there's a lot of research about this where images should just always stay in the same position, so you develop the motor learning so that you become a faster communicator, and you start with as large a grid as you can. and then hide everything except the few that you're working on, and then gradually add core vocabulary and important fringe vocabulary. There's a lot to know about AAC, and then it's really important to get everybody on board with it, and people using it and modeling it, and making it fun and not making it a chore, but a way to express. It's the individual's voice, and it should be around engaging, fun activities to get buy-in.
I agree.
Improve their life.
I agree. Well, I thank you for including me on this very informative, all the discussions in your presentation. I very much appreciate it. One last question. When you said that there are a lot of really good speech therapists, were you saying that in reference to Virginia Beach? Because I'm attending from Virginia Beach.
I know a lot in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
But I don't know too many, but I'm pretty well networked. And so I often help people find people near them to help.
Joan, we had a question related to that. And Farah, I see you have a question too. I'll get you one sec, where people are asking about IEEs, independent educational evaluations for assistive technology, because the assistive technology evaluation was incomplete or not particularly thorough. Would a speech pathologist be the best person for them to go to for that? Or what do you think?
It's a problem. It's a big problem. I used to do some, but you know, the amount that you get reimbursed for the amount of time it takes, it's a big problem. I don't know anyone doing them right now. Okay. And I'm only providing online services right now, and you can't do that online.
Yep.
So I don't have guidance. It's tough.
It is.
And it wouldn't be a speech pathologist. Well, a speech pathologist could do one for apraxia and AAC, but most speech pathologists are not well versed in assistive technology.
I see.
I sort of merged them. I mean, most speech pathologists aren't that much into tech.
Yeah, you're an anomaly. Farah, who's one of our board members, has a question, I think.
Thank you, Michelle. Great presentation. I really, I'm learning a lot tonight. I am well aware of learning Aloud because my son has benefited quite greatly from it. And I'm one of the parents who's kind of in a grieving period right now because he's graduating from the school system, and I'm trying to figure out how he'll be able to maintain access. I know it's not possible to the school system, but I wasn't sure if you had experience with older students who are.
I think you can get it. Even adults can get a subscription to Learning Ally. You might have to pay a little bit, but as long as he has a documented print disability, you as a parent can get an individual membership. Same thing with Bookshare.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Joan? We have just a few minutes left.
It is overwhelming. I mean, I know how hard, like some of this is very overwhelming. And so I would just pick one or two things that looked really intriguing to you and go online and search, you know, how do I use the scan marker pen? And there you'll find a bunch of videos. Or how, you know, how can I use word prediction on a Chromebook? Or how can I use text to speech on my Android phone? Or, you know, like the first step is just to know that this is possible. And I like it when parents try to figure things out together with the student, you know, as a project. Like your kids might already know some of this, and then they can be the ones that teach you how to do it. Or, you know, it really depends on on your relationship and on the age and tech savviness of the student and you, you know, but it's really pretty fun when you figure out a way that one or two little tweaks can make, you know, make things so much less stressful for the whole family.
Absolutely. And I would encourage our parents, FCPS parents, that to reach out to the assistive technology staff member from your child's school and describe what you're looking for. And even if the case manager doesn't know, the AT person potentially might know, and at least get you pointed in the right direction to get started.
If I can make one more comment, I'm so glad to see that you have a special education PTA. We had one here in Virginia Beach, but sadly it just fell by the wayside. Witnessing that you have connections, active connections with the staff from your school systems who is talking about what they're doing, that is so encouraging, because I never saw that here. And to witness it on your website and to see that they're actively involved and promoting and talking and encouraging each other about what they need to do on behalf, and proactively saying, we're going to keep you informed of this along the way. I never witnessed that, and it is troubling to know that this kind of fell because it had no support. It was almost seen as adversarial to the school system, and that's unfortunate.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, Amy. And we've certainly been working very hard as an organization to build our relationship with FCPS rather than be adversarial.
Right. It can get so adversarial, and I used to have a lot of attorneys contact me all the time and ask for the exact right recommendations of what to do. And often it's just really important that everybody work together for the benefit of the student. And there are many ways to achieve the same objective. That's why I talk about features rather than too many products, because you just need the features, because for every task, it might look a little different.
Right. Well, I witnessed these parents. They were a good group of parents. They were very positive. They worked very hard. And I think they kept it on board for about 5 years, but then it just dwindled. And the sad part was, what I witnessed is that all the other PTA meetings were advertised, but I never once saw any of the special education students taking home the notice that the meeting was going to be, how it was going to take place and so forth. And that to me was, there were so many parents that had no idea that there was a SEPTA organization locally. And it was just unfortunate.
Well, I think that on that note, I'm going to take that window that you opened and remind those of you who have hung in here until the end that we are absolutely looking to bring more folks on board in our board. And we certainly encourage you to reach out to us if you're so interested. Looking at the clock, I want to respect everyone's time and say thank you very much again to Joan for her time tonight. Coming to present to us. Whenever I hear Joan or I read up in her Facebook group, I always end up down this rabbit hole of the internet reading about so many different apps and opportunities and technological things that I don't know how to use that have the potential to be really helpful. So thank you very much again.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I wish everyone lots of success and a good rest of the year.
Thank you. So thank you all very much for joining us this evening, and stay tuned for our award ceremony later in May. Have a good night, everyone.